Mr. Ilojalo for Secretary General. Same heading. With reference to your letter dated 2nd July 2018, copied to this office on the subject caption above, I have the honor to bring to the attention of the Commission that it was a cabinet decision in the meeting held on Thursday, 21st June 2018, to crave the indulgence of the Commission of Inquiry to suspend the auctioning of the former President's tractors by the Commission, given the concerns raised by the Ministry of Agriculture that said tractors will benefit the farming communities across the country. In the same vein, we wish to express disappointment and disquiet that the Secretary to the Commission would make unwarranted insinuations that the Honorable Secretary General and Head of the Civil Service is in cohort with the lead counsel of the Commission to interfere in the proceedings of the Commission. Thus, the Secretary to the Commission is hereby urged to immediately retract such gratuitous allegations to avoid undesirable consequences. We kindly solicit your understanding and cooperation.
All right, let's look at these three correspondences together. What can be deduced from these three? What I can deduce from these three correspondences is that Cabinet wanted an outcome. It approached the Commission in a very clandestine manner, in my view, and it got what it wanted. Would you comment on that?
What I deduce from these three letters is that the first letter from the Office of the President was ill-advised. The chairman of the Commission swiftly rejected that. And the third letter confirms two fundamental facts that I have provided to this committee. First is that I had advised for a request to the Commission to suspend the sale of the tractors. And this letter here makes reference to craving the indulgence of the Commission. That to me is a request.
You see, that is after the fact. The
Well,
third letter was after the fact.
Yeah, but I said the first letter was ill-advised. I agree with you. I'm telling you what I testified to and what confirms that testimony here in this third letter of 3rd July.
I will do you one better. Perhaps when they decided to heed to your advice is when they decided to put you in the picture, and that's why you're only in the picture on the third
of July.
correspondence.
That
yes.
may well be the case, but my position was that a request should be made rather than an instruction, and you can see that craving the indulgence of the Commission is a request, one. And two, it was based on concerns or the request of the Minister of Agriculture, who said he wanted the tractors to be
Yes, that has been established.
so
And
this is what I would deduce from these three letters.
okay, I explained to you my deduction. I would deduce so because, one, even though I agree with you, discussions in cabinet, especially the ideas of the agriculture minister, they were very noble. In fact, if I was in cabinet that day, if God had blessed me to be in cabinet that day, I would commend him for that idea. The approach, however, I would frown upon. Because here we are talking about an independent body, how to approach that independent body. And we have a ministry, the government has a chambers, a law chambers, headed by your humble self at the time. I mean, it's not rocket science to know that the only way to approach the Commission in this type of thing would be to approach it formally. And that would mean to approach it in its proceedings, because it's deliberating on these assets. These assets are being deliberated upon, and if you wanted a hold on a process that an order was made for, you need to defer that order, and that order could have been deferred by the Ministry of Justice making an application on behalf of the government to the commission and being heard by the commission. Now that, to me, to my mind, would have been the transparent and appropriate way to approach the commission. However, what the government decided was that they would approach the commission on an administrative basis, on the sidelines, and not even through the records, because we are not in receipt of any letter conveyed by any department of the government, except for these instructions, asking for a request for the processes to be halted. Instead, what evidence we received is that the Minister of Justice was asked, yourself, you were asked to approach the commissioners and explain to them the government's position.
Maybe the fact that I did not suggest my reluctance to interfere in the work of the commission, maybe the fact that no formal application was made in this matter shows a reluctance. I am not saying more. That's all I am saying. But Council, the communications from the Office of the President, when you say clandestinely, is a little bit too harsh, because it's not a confidential communications. It's not even a strictly confidential communications. When governments communicate in a manner that they don't want, in a manner that they want to maintain confidentiality, they label it as such, confidential or strictly confidential. The fact that this was an open letter, I don't think it was meant to clandestinely approach the commission.
I was not, well, okay, proceed.
Because you used the word clandestinely, so I don't think it was clandestinely done. Sometimes some of these things are done innocently.
What I was referring to, what was clandestine, was an instruction by cabinet to you to speak.
I don't recall cabinet instructing me to speak.
But that's the evidence we have, and you would agree with me, if that was the case, that would be a clandestine approach.
No, it wouldn't be a clandestine approach. It would be asking the Attorney General to use his good offices to request for a deferral of the sale of the tractors.
Yes,
that
there's a
mean
mechanism in which to approach.
Yes, and that's why
the commission, and speaking to the commissioners would not be appropriate.
You need to work in the real world sometimes, I think, for you to understand how things really work out there. It's not as ideal as you...
Apparently the National Assembly is a cartoon.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying you need to interact in the real world. Sometimes some of these things do occur in professional environments. You have a discussion before something is put in writing. If it is going to be, if there are chances of success. If not, then you don't bother at all, because it's all part of streamlining processes. And so it would not have been out of the ordinary for me to reach out to the commission chairman and ask if that was a request that they would be willing to accommodate before I actually subject myself to a written request. That would be very, very normal. And it would be very normal for the chairman to say, I am open to the idea, okay, send in your request, or I don't think we can do this, and then I would not send in my request. So
in that context, Mr. Tambadou, I agree with.
Exactly. So that would not be clandestine.
But that
right?
was not this. That is not the context.
No, but you're telling me that cabinet had asked me to reach out.
Yes.
And you described us as clandestine, and I'm saying it's not necessarily clandestine, because I could have approached the commission and asked for an indication as to whether they're open to the idea.
So let me put to you what is on record before the committee. In fact, perhaps we will just halt on this issue and move to something, a side issue that will advise this issue. Cabinet asked the Minister of Justice to approach the commissioners and get back to cabinet. The minister approached the commissioners, yourself, from the evidence we have, that you approached the commissioners and you came back to cabinet. But funny enough, it was not the whole cabinet that you came to. You had a meeting with His Excellency the President, the Secretary General, on the same day that Mr. Kurang and Mr. Sise met. Do you recall that meeting?
No, I don't. I'm not saying it didn't exist, but I don't recall it right now.
So you would not recall the conversations that happened in that meeting?
Maybe if you continue, my memory would be refreshed.
Unfortunately for us, you are the first witness from that quorum to be before this this committee. We have not had the pleasure of calling the Secretary General at the time, Mr. Habib Drame, just yet.
And what would I have said in that meeting?
And we have also not had the pleasure of having His Excellency the President sitting on that seat yet. But I don't know what you would have said. But whatever you said did not go down well with His Excellency and Mr. Drame, the Secretary General at the time. This is on the account given to the committee by Mr. Sise.
Okay.
And immediately that meeting was concluded, Mr. Sise had another meeting with his subordinate. Sorry, Mr. Drame had another meeting with his subordinate, Mr. Sise, the Secretary General and the Secretary to Cabinet, respectively. And in that meeting, he instructed Mr. Sise to call Mr. Kurang. And in fact, he called Mr. Kurang for Mr. Sise on his own device and handed it to Mr. Sise to speak. Yes. So we are not aware of the content of the meeting. You are the first to appear here. We would like to be enlightened on what occurred in that meeting.
And you're saying that based on the evidence before this committee, whatever I had communicated in that meeting did not go down well with the other participants of the meeting?
Yes, this is deduced from the events immediately following.
I cannot recall that meeting. I cannot even recall if I ever approached the commission to ask them about the sale of the tractors. I do not recall that. And even if I were to do that, I would have been more tempted to do that with lead counsel to find out whether that was a possibility before I would actually approach the commission. But I do not recall those sequence of events.
Okay. But the sales went on to be suspended.
I certainly recall that for a brief moment, the sales were suspended.
Yes, and they were suspended to accommodate the government.
Well, it made sense for the commission to hold on to see what the government was proposing, what the government wanted, to hear what the government wanted before they could decide as to whether to proceed with the sale or not. So I think it was out of deference to the government that the commission would do that. The government is the government.
Was that right in your view?
Was what right?
The
temporary suspension of the sales?
And the way the government approached the commission.
Yeah, but we have already established the fact that the letter was ill-advised. That was not the proper approach.
So it was wrong?
It was ill-advised. Let me put it that way, Council.
Okay.
We're dealing with government, senior government officials here, and I'm choosing my words very carefully, out of respect for the offices that they hold.
Yes.
But it was ill-advised. Nevertheless, I think they have realized that, and their subsequent communication on the 3rd of July reiterates the fact that it was going to be a request to the commission?
It did not reiterate it. It in fact stated
Well,
it for the first time.
Okay, all right. So they have taken a step back from their original position and adopted a new one.
After the fact, after that, their instructions were heeded.
I agree. It was ill advised. I think we agree on that.
Yes, if we agree, let's agree wholehearted. They
But-
messed up. They messed up.
No,
let's not try and proffer explanation.
No,
to
let's
say-
give the government credit. The letter of the 3rd of July did indicate that they were making a request to the commission.
after the fact.
Yes, better late than never.
Okay. All right. Let me fixate on that letter.
Okay.
The middle paragraph of that letter. It's where they express that their disappointment and disquiet,
Yes.
and also urge. You see, urge again, once more, the secretary to proffer an apology
Mhm.
or retract his statements.
Yes. It was an urging. Urging, in my understanding of English, is not to demand or to instruct. It's to emphatically request. That's what I would say urging is.
And I'm happy that you put a modifier on the nature of the request.
Yes, because when you
Because I was just about to reach for my dictionary, but it's fine. I'm happy that you qualified the nature of the request. It's not an ordinary request.
that's why I said it's an emphatic request. That's in my understanding of the word urging.
You see, I want to make a point. I don't know how to make it without extending it to the Evidence Act. You see, in the Evidence Act, there's a provision there for confessions and how confessions should be administered. And even if the procedure wasn't followed and the police officer is super nice, he's so nice to the accused person, and the accused person spills the beans, that confession is not taken. You know why? Because it comes from somebody who has a fiduciary responsibility, somebody who has authority. You see, if my boss, the clerk of the National Assembly, were to tell me that, I think you should not park your car where you normally park it, because I like that spot. He's not instructing, but he is a man of authority. If I also like that parking spot more than him and decide to defy his humble request because he likes that parking spot, I should definitely keep on the back of my mind that there will be repercussions. It is natural. Don't you think so? Now, don't you think so?
So in other words, what you're saying is this was an interference by the government in the commission's work.
Yes.
I respectfully disagree. I disagree for two principal reasons. One, at most it was an attempt to interfere, at most, if we go by the first letter, which was written on the 26th of June. So it was an attempt. At the most, that's how I'll qualify it, because the interference did not succeed. The chairman swiftly rejected it. So for me, it's an attempt to interfere. And two, in any event, having realized that they were attempting to interfere, which was swiftly rejected, the letter of 3rd of July really showed that they readjusted their position and now made a request. So I wouldn't call that an interference.
All right. So we're still going back to the top paragraph because you have not answered the question as it relates to the bottom paragraph. But just to react to what you just said, the government did not readjust their request. Their instructions were heeded to. This was not a request. The deed had been done. And in fact, the deed had been done for about 5 days before the government reacted. The sale was stopped for about 5-6 days. The government, out of courtesy to respond to the chair, perhaps just wrote to him to say, okay, yes,
But
you have leeway.
what the evidence is showing here, at least from what I can see, the chair in his letter of 27th of June, swiftly rejected the attempted interference. So,
No,
what you have
the
on
chair
record,
put light to the attempted, shed light on the attempted interference and said they cannot influence the commission.
yes.
However,
Quite
the chair
right.
also said that their request chimed with his thinking.
Yes.
Let's not beat around the bush here.
Yeah, but
This
Counsel,
is
I'll give you more.
Sure. Go on.
I'll give you more because I have said that. I have said from my recollection, the commission halted the sales for a period. I couldn't recall. Now you're telling me it was 5 days for a period, so that they will give the government the opportunity.
I did not say that they
Oh,
halted
okay.
for 5 days.
Okay,
I
maybe
said
I missed
they
that.
halted for 5 days. Sorry, the last letter, which is folio 44, that you make reference, you reacted to say that they changed their position,
They adjusted
their
their
position.
position. Yes.
I'm saying that they did not adjust any position, because what they set out to achieve had been achieved 5 or 6 days prior to this letter being issued. So it was not a shift in position.
Well, at least on paper, it was a shift in the government's position. The first letter, the language of the first letter is completely different from the language of the second letter. So for me, that's an adjustment of position. But in any event, like I said, as far as I knew, the commission did defer the sales temporarily to accommodate the government's request, to see what the government was coming up with. And when the government failed to reach out to the commission again in a timely manner, the commission proceeded. The government was certainly an interested party in the commission's proceedings.
Okay. I believe more or less we are on the same page as to the interference. Now I want to go on to the interference with the tractor sales. Move on to.
But the interference did not succeed.
I believe it succeeded. The
Okay.
committee believes it succeeded.
But the
Because-
tractors were ultimately sold, notwithstanding the government's request.
And that is not thanks to the.
It is the commission's decision.
It was the decision by the commission was to halt tractor sales
And to sell them
However-
subsequently.
in other regions. However, the secretary did not heed to the instructions proffered to him by the Secretary General,
Quite widely.
and he continued sales that day. So
Until-
that day,
Yes.
sales concluded.
Quite widely until
Yes.
the commission tells him to stop.
Indeed.
I agree with that.
Indeed. So I wouldn't say that the interference did not succeed. There was interference.
It did not succeed because the secretary did not stop, according to the evidence you're just telling me now, and that's actually correct. So there was that's why I kept using the word attempt. Interference suggests that actually it did have the desired result.
It did, Mr. Tambadou, because what the desired result was for the Ministry of Agriculture to retain a certain number of tractors.
But did they?
The Ministry of Agriculture retained a certain number of tractors.
For the farming communities,
Yes,
I think the commission was very considerate to consider that.
I also think so too.
Yeah.
However, I think the interference succeeded on that basis.
Okay, I will give you that if that's what you want to insist on. Are there other examples of interference by the government?
Perhaps I should ask you that question.
As far as the MOJ is concerned, there's never been any. I can only speak for the MOJ. I can only speak for the MOJ. And as far as the MOJ was concerned, there was never any attempt.
On the contrary, I believe you are the spokesman for the government.
You're giving me a lot of titles, eh?
But you were the line ministry. So you were the spokesperson for the government to the commission.
And that's why we did not seek to interfere in the workings of the commission, because we understood what that meant.
Okay. Now, the middle paragraph again.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I would not even categorize it as interference, so to speak. I would categorize it as a threat. Would you?
The language was ill-advised.
There's a lot of ill advice in the government at the time.
I'm not in control of government or who writes government letters. I can only profile my views in a way that would not disrespect anybody or any office.
All right, just for the record, I was scrambling to look for a piece of evidence, but the sales had halted around that period, July 2018, and continued months later in October 2018.
Yeah. I suspected it was a couple of weeks before the commission resumed, because they had waited to hear back from the government
a couple of months
for a while, yes, and nothing happened, so they proceeded. Yeah.
Oh, to just sanitize the record again, something happened, and the government got what it wanted.
Well, but naturally, if the government writes to the commission and says we are considering the farming community in the country because of the rainy season, can you temporarily suspend the sales until we've had an opportunity to put a case to you? Why wouldn't the commission
because that is not the appropriate manner in which to approach the commission. The appropriate manner to approach the commission would be in public hearings. We have an application to make. We wish for you to freeze, to put an injunction on or a stop to the sales momentarily, as the government is heavily interested in it. And nobody blames the government to be heavily invested in the assets. But the manner in which the government approached the commission, again, for me, was clandestine. It was not the appropriate, it was not the best way. In fact, it was not the right way to approach the commission.
I keep saying you're brave. It's not the right way based on what? Based on what rule of law or of practice?
This is a commission of inquiry.
That's right.
Right?
Yes.
The commission of inquiry conducts public hearings, except for where there are issues of confidentiality.
Mm-hmm.
The commission of inquiry is independent.
Mm-hmm.
If it is independent, it can only be swayed by reason. Correct?
Absolutely.
And the forum for that reason can only be the public hearing. It cannot be administrative, because if it is administrative, then the component of interference comes into play.
So you're saying you cannot make a reasoned request to the commission through a letter?
I'm saying you should not
Based
make a
on what?
reason.
Based on what rule of law or of practice, counsel?
Based on
Based
the inherent nature.
Based on your own views?
No, not based on my own views.
But
Based on the inherent nature of a commission of inquiry.
But that's your view.
If you were not the government, if you were a third party and you wish to approach the commission, how would you approach the commission? As other third parties did.
Some have approached the commission through letters. Others have used counsel to write letters. Others have made applications, formal applications. So there are different ways to approach the commission. So some wrote directly, some wrote through counsel, some made formal applications.
And those that had issues to deal with the substantive subject matter of the commission, let's say an asset or two is affected, how did they approach the commission?
Some of the ones that I knew didn't even approach the commission. They went straight to court. Then they were referred back to the commission as a first step. Yeah.
You see, the court understood my position. But apparently you don't think you think my position is
I'm not saying
my position.
No,
the court understood that
I'm not saying
there is a process, a transparent process going on.
Okay.
Anyway,
that's a matter of procedure.
it indeed is. But you see, procedure is informed by substance, and where the procedure is flawed, you risk offending the substance.
You have a lot of. You must have done well in your philosophy class in law.
In fact, I teach constitutional law currently and administrative.
I could sense the
And
I could sense the pedagogy in.
And
your,
I enjoy it.
I can see that.
Yes.
I can see you do.
But back to the threat in paragraph 2. Do you agree with me, or do you maintain that it's ill-advised still?
It is ill-advised.
All right.
The language is ill-advised, or was ill-advised.
And that ill-advised metamorphosed into reality 7 days later.
No, but you can understand the reason behind this language at the time. I suspect very strongly, I'm not very sure about the chronology of events, but I'm sure this was in reaction to Alaji Mamadi Kurang's letter of complaint about this council. Was it?
Yes, the second paragraph?
Yes, the second paragraph.
The second paragraph was, but again,
but we're talking about the second paragraph now, right?
Yes, we are.
And that's why I'm saying I can understand the language. I agree it's ill-advised. If it was ill-advised, I wouldn't have used language like this. But I can also understand the reasoning for this reaction at the time.
Okay. And why is that?
A lot of wild allegations were made at the time which were not substantiated.
Okay. From the evidence we received, the Secretary to Cabinet at the time, Mr. Ibrahim Assise, had mentioned that the basis upon which Mr. Kurang was let go by the government, or rather removed from his position as Secretary by the government, was because of that heated interaction at the MSA complex. Perhaps I missed to invoke that emotion, that it was not a pleasant interaction.
That's the evidence of Mr. Ibrahim Assise, Secretary to Cabinet.
As well as the evidence of Mr. Kurang.
That is not to my knowledge. I have a different reason as to why Mr. Mamadi Kurang was
removed. Yes, you hinted to it earlier on in the proceedings, but we'll delve right into it now. But just to state for you the facts on record from both witnesses.
I find that hard to believe, because Mr. Kurang was not removed after those heated exchanges. Not immediately after, anyway. Mr. Kurang was only removed after I recommended for his removal.
Mr. Kurang was removed 7 days after the letter asking him to retract the statement. And I believe in the document that you are referring to, Mr. Kurang, true to himself, had shown that he was not about to apologize.
You know, I guess it's credit to me that I found very strong persons of very strong character and personality.
Indeed, it is indeed credit
to man these critical positions. But nevertheless, when people cannot work together harmoniously, you have to make difficult decisions. That is the burden of leadership. It's not pleasant to be making tough decisions, but if you want to be an effective leader, you have to be prepared to make difficult decisions. And this was one instance where I had to make a difficult decision, and I did. It was not personal at all.
Yes, I can imagine being in that position would be quite difficult. I definitely can appreciate that. And I can appreciate the fact that it's quite convenient for me to be scrutinizing those times without the practical context
You,
But they, but
you still have a long way in your career. I'm sure you will find yourself in situations like that sooner or later.
I'm sure I will take the Alhaji Muhammad Kurang route.
I'm saying you will find yourself in situations where you have to make difficult decisions, one way or the other.
That would be a blessing to be the Minister of Justice.
No, not minister, just any position, council.
Okay.
Difficult decisions come with responsibility.
Indeed. I am attempting to guide the committee as to which document we are referring to.
Yeah,
Honorable Chair.
but before you do, can we take a short break, 10 minutes? You know, we don't have a quorum. I mean, we are only three. If one is missing, we have to the rest of the
I was actually going to suggest that in 3 minutes. 5 on the dot.
That's
I see. My apologies. Yeah.
We can resume again.
Oh, that's fine. That's fine.
That's fine.